Shavua Tov, everyone. I'm a little bit early, but I'm just about um, I'm just about not going to do this shiur, but it needs to be done. So please forgive me that that I'm here now, but I've had a very difficult couple of days, and I don't feel very well. But this is so important that I don't want to miss it, not for me and not for you. Yitro is the Parsha of the Ten Commandments. So this is an incredible combination. Yitro is the most important idol worshiper of that time. He's worshipped every idol that exists. Parsha named after him. Parsha of the giving of the Ten Commandments named after an idol worshiper. So I'm going to do this Parsha a little bit different than usual, and I'm going to give you with a couple of comments, just Hasidic Rebbe observations, because I think they're absolutely clear and will explain all of it even more so. He says, based on the Sikha of Shabbos Yitro 5737, Yitro was an idol worshiper. In fact, he had worshipped every idol that was known to exist. How could a Parsha in the Torah be named after him? The idol worshippers were no fools, as it may seem at the first glance, but rather they were intellectuals who spend their lives pondering the higher spheres of existence. In other words, if you were an idol worshiper, you were educated, you were intelligent, and you studied. Sounds to me like a bunch of lefties. So when Yitro, priest of Midian, abandoned idolatry and came to the desert, it was an informed decision. And when he said, "Now I know that God is greater than all the other deities," he was accrediting Torah with the honor that an esteemed individual testified that Torah is the greatest wisdom of all. In this way, he handed over his idol worship to the Torah. Hasidus teaches that there is a subtle overtone of idol worship in any mitzvah that is done for an ulterior motive. The idol worshiper looks to a force other than God, and a mitzvah that is performed without the correct intention is also an act which is done for a motive other than God's will. Obviously, the comparison is an extremely remote one. even if a mitzvah is performed for the wrong reason or out of rote, it is still a good deed. But the fact remains that an ulterior motive makes a mitzvah smell of idol worship. Does that mean that a person should stop doing mitzvahs if his motive is not pure? Not at all. A person should always continue to observe the mitzvahs, good deeds, even if his motives are not entirely pure, because eventually he will do them for the right reason. Then he will become like Yitro, because all the good deeds that he performed for the wrong reasons, his former idol worship, will be handed over to God. So, as I wrote in my comment, you could have been a lefty forever. And then something happened in your life. You heard something. You saw something that stimulated you to go further, to understand better, to change your mind, to change your opinion, that you're big enough, educated enough to change your opinion. And if you were an anti-Semite for 50 years, and in the 51st year, you met someone or you heard something that really got to you, stimulated you, and you say, I've got to figure out what is going on. And that's a great thing, because it basically is the same thing that Yitro did. With all of what he did in his life and who he was, priest of Midian, brilliant, a special advisor to the Pharaoh, and he saw everything that happened in Egypt, and it didn't change him. He saw that God took out the Jewish people from the middle of Egypt, and it didn't faze him yet. The whole world was part of the splitting of the sea, because when the sea split, it split the waters all over the world. Also, that didn't do it yet, but what did it? Amalek is what did it. When he saw, after all the other things that he had seen, that he had experienced, that he was part of, when he saw that Amalek attacked the Jewish people, and that, you remember, Moses went up, and with his hands being held up by stones, fought the battle upstairs. And Yoshua fought the battle downstairs. And as long as the hands stayed up, Jewish people were winning. And when the hands dropped down, Amalek was winning. In the end, it was the Jewish people who won. But When he saw that the effect, basically, the Rebbe says that when he saw the effect of the war with Amalek, not the victory over Amalek, but rather the war itself, that's what caused him to come. The victory of Amalek, the Rebbe says, was not sufficient reason for Yitro to come, since there was nothing left to see. In other words, when the Jewish people went through the Sea of Reeds, it was over. We all saw the water, but it was over. All over the world, it was over. When the Jewish people came out of Egypt, the world witnessed how God treated them in a miraculous manner. And the people heard, they trembled. None had the courage or the strength to make war with them, obviously. Amalek, however, showed outright audacity. They were not scared of the Jewish people, and they were going to make a war with them despite the miracles that had occurred. Rebbe speaking. Even though Amalek themselves suffered defeat, the very fact that they showed sufficient courage to fight caused the fear which the nations had of the Jewish people to dissipate. In other words, before that, nobody would attack the Jewish people for any reason whatsoever because they saw the miracles that Hashem made. Amalek may have lost the battle, but they succeeded in cooling off the trepidation which people felt for the children of Israel. Then Yitro came, and he left a place of honor in the world, coming to a wilderness in order to have the merit of being with Moses and the Jewish people. He came to boost the esteem of the Jewish people, which had been shattered to a great degree by the audacity of Amalek. Now, this is a really, really great way of thinking, because the history of our people shows 3,000 years of wars, 3,000 years of pogroms, of hatred, of inquisitions, of Shoah, of October 7th. You know what's incredible to me all the time is that nothing really changes. We're talking about Yitro. Let me make not a comparison, but an analogy maybe to the president of Somaliland, who writes today that he is coming to Israel and it's going to be the opening of a tremendous cooperation between Israel and Somaliland. 6 months ago, a year ago, October 7th, whoever thought of such a thing as an open cooperation with Somaliland? I didn't know about Somaliland. I didn't think about it ever. But obviously, Somaliland is a tremendous, tremendous step for security and collaboration economically for Israel. So, I mean, you can take many, many, many different examples today in the same exact way as you see Yitro. Take Charlie Kirk, for example. Okay. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous personality, worldwide American, who, with all his power and strength, supported Israel. Look at President Trump. Many, 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 many things to say. But we have to also remember another thing. Yitro is Moshe's father-in-law. And he came with his daughter, Zipporah, Moshe's wife, and their 2 children, Gershom and Eliezer. So when Moses left to go to Egypt, if you remember, he took his wife and his 2 sons, but he sent them back when he realized that there was going to be some trouble. So he sent them back to Midian to be safe with his father-in-law, Yitro. So Torah begins and says, Yitro, the priest of Midian, father-in-law of Moses, heard about the splitting of the Sea of Reeds and the war with Amalek, and all that God had done for Moses and for Israel. Manna, water in the desert, and God had taken Israel out of Egypt. So these were the headlines, okay? And Moses and Aaron and the elders came to meet, and Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu, and a huge welcoming committee went out to greet the father-in-law of Moses. Moses bowed down and kissed him. They asked of each other's welfare, and they entered the tent. And then Moses served his father-in-law, and they spoke about everything. And here we are in a very extraordinary conversation. Here we go with the sparks of Chassidus. The Zohar states, Book 2, 67b, 68a, that Yitro's arrival and conversation and conversion was crucial preparation for the giving of the Torah. So obviously, he arrived before the giving of the Torah, penetrating deeper into the spiritual realms than the accomplishments of the Jewish people. The revelation that had occurred at the splitting of the Red Sea had been lofty and a divine revelation. In order that the Torah shouldn't be able to sanctify even the realm of the mundane, it was crucial that an event would occur where the forces of impurity and evil would be handed over to the side of holiness. This was the conversion of Yitro, whose history of expertise in idol worship was elevated to holiness when he converted. This made it possible for the Torah to penetrate even the profane. Based on the Sikha of Parasha's Yitro in 57:25. And Yitro stays around. He sees what goes on. And he's obviously a very brilliant man. And actually, the following Parsha, the following passage occurs later after the giving of the Torah, that on the day after Yom Kippur, when Moses comes down from Mount Sinai, it always shows you that the Torah is not in chronological order. So it talks about that after Moses comes down from Sinai, he sits down to judge the people. And the people stood before Moses from the morning until the evening. And Moses' father-in-law, Yitro, sees that, it's wearing Moses out, obviously. And he says to him, why do you sit by yourself while all the people stand before you from morning to evening? And Moses says to his father-in-law, because the people come to me to ask and seek God's teaching. If any of them have a claim, he comes to me, and I judge between man and his fellow. I make known the statutes of God and his teachings. Nobody else went up to Sinai. Nobody else is ready to do what Moses is doing. But Moses' father-in-law says to him, the thing that you're doing is no good. You will surely wear yourself out along with Aaron and Hur and this nation that is with you. For the matter is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will advise you, but let God be in agreement with you on this matter. You should represent the people before God, and you will bring their disputes to God. You will caution them about the statutes and the teachings, and you will show them the path to follow and the things that they must do. But using divine inspiration, you should seek out among the people financially independent men who fear God, men of truth whose words are reliable, and who hate monetary gain through litigation. You should appoint them over the people with differing levels of responsibility. Leaders for thousands, leaders for hundreds, leaders for fifties, and leaders for tens. And they will judge the people on a full-time basis. When any major matter arises, they will bring it to you, but the minor matters, they will judge for themselves. This will make it easier for you, for they will bear the burden with you. Do you think that Moses didn't know this? I mean, the suggestion is brilliant. Suggestion is practical. No man can take on an entire people and judge for them without the help of others. But he was very, very, very decisive in his consideration. And he said, you have to ask God if God is accepting of this. That means he didn't take it onto himself to say, oh, you do this because I say so. No. He said, do this. It's my advice to you. But don't do that before God approves of it. So that's the way it should be, right? Moses listened to his father-in-law and did all that he said. This is extremely important because obviously Hashem disagreed with Moses doing all by himself and agreed with Moses' father-in-law Yitro, and so it will be. Now we go back. At this point, Torah goes back, but not before it states, Moses listened to his father-in-law, did all he said, chose the leaders that were suggested, and Moses saw his father-in-law off, and he went away to his land, Midian, to convert his family. But this piece of Torah is after what comes next, just to finish off the part of Yitro. The people camp at Mount Sinai. The first day of the third month after the children's departure from Egypt, they arrived in the desert of Sinai. So now we go back. And the last word of the Rebbe from a letter of the 10th of Sivan, 5724 is, it is highly significant that Torah was given in a desert, the desert of Sinai. This emphasizes, as our sages point out, that the Torah is not, I repeat, the Torah is not conditioned upon any particular place or time or any normal set of living conditions. That means the Torah is as important in America as it is in Germany, as it is in France, or in India, or in China, because the Torah is Hashem's word and the life of every Jew, no matter where he is, no matter what his profession. Torah is eternal for all of us, everywhere. So we're at Sinai. The rules and regulations of what will happen and how it will happen are outlined by Hashem, giving Moses directions of what the behavior of the people should be, because the people want to hear Hashem. They don't want Moses, they want to hear Hashem. The first word of acceptance of the Torah by all our people in complete unanimity was naaseh. We will do. The fact that it was enunciated at the moment of the greatest spiritual elation makes it all the more significant. It is a clear instruction for each and all of us not to let ourselves be carried away by enthusiasm alone, but immediately translate it into the reality of tangible deeds. From a letter dated Rosh Chodesh Sivan, 5733, by the Rebbe. Okay. God says to Moses, look, Torah speaks, look, I am going to come down to you in a fog within its deepest part, in order that the people hear when I speak to you, and they will also believe in you and the prophets that will follow forever. The people replied in unison, everything that God has said we shall do. Moshe returns to relay what the people said on the fourth day. He ascended to relay the reply to God, that they did not wish to overhear God speaking to Moses, but they wanted to hear God speaking to them. And Hashem says to Moses, I'm reading this straight translation because it's so immensely important for you to understand that you were there, that we were all there, that every Jewish neshama in every lifetime was there to hear precisely the words of Hashem. If the people, God said to Moses, if the people want to hear me directly, then go to the people and make them ready today and tomorrow. They should wash their clothes. They should be prepared for the third day, having separated from their wives. For on the third day from today, meaning the 6th day of the month, God will descend before the eyes of all the people on Mount Sinai. Understand that your neshama and my neshama and every Jew's neshama at that moment was there and heard and saw all that happened. That means inside me and inside you and inside every Yid, there was, and there will always be the moment that we heard Hashem and we heard the giving of the Torah. God spoke 2 commandments because then the people they were not able to stand more, and they were afraid to die, and they asked Moses to speak to them instead of Hashem. God spoke the 10 commandments in one single utterance. He then went back and specified each one individually. The Jewish people responded yes to the positive commandments and no to the prohibitions. You need to read this, all of it, word for word. And you need to understand what you said yes to and what you said no to. You did. And even though today you don't want to know anything and nothing interests you, and all you want to do is live quietly, do your stuff, and not even think of being Jewish. And you've left behind so many things that maybe as a kid you knew, and then bar mitzvah over, and then forget about it. And maybe you even converted, and maybe even you married out of Judaism, and you live a completely far off life. No. Your neshama was there, and she knew. 10 commandments. I am God, your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall not possess an idol or other deities so long as I exist. You shall not make for yourself a sculptured image or any image of that which is in the heavens above, which is on the earth below, or which is in the water beneath the earth. You shall not bow down before them, nor worship them. For I, God, your God, am God, who is zealous to enact punishment, who visits upon the iniquity of the fathers and the sons, upon the sons, upon the third and the fourth generation of those who continue in their father's way to hate me. But I act kindly to those who love me and to those who keep my commandments for 2,000 generations. Do you get this? It's clear. I love Torah. I love Torah because it doesn't need any explanation. Hashem's words are so clear that if you take them, like Rashi takes them, okay, he takes the words exactly the way they are, and 150 million commentators don't change the essence of what Hashem's words represent. You shall not take the name of God, your God, in vain, for God will not absolve anyone who takes his name in vain. Nothing to add. It's all there. Remember the Shabbos day to sanctify it. 6 days may you work and perform all your labor, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to God, your God. You shall perform no labor, neither you, your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your beast, nor your convert who is within your gates. For the 6 days God made the heavens, the earth, and the sea, and all that is in them, and he rested, so to speak, on the seventh day. Therefore, God blessed the Sabbath day by causing a double portion of manna to fall on Friday, and sanctified it by not bringing manna on Shabbos. That was the first day, the first time that actually Hashem showed us what it means to receive and be ready for Shabbos. He gave us manna so we wouldn't have to do anything on Shabbos. Honor your father and your mother in order that your days will be lengthened on the land that God, your God, is giving you. Is that clear? You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. People, in parentheses, people, for example, kidnap. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. your maidservant, his maidservant, his manservant, his ox, his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. Where do you need explanation for this? Where is it necessary to make comparisons? This is clear. All the people could see the sounds which God spoke. The torches, the sound of the shofar, and the smoking mountain. The people saw and they trembled and they withdrew backward the full length of the camp. And they said to Moses, you speak to us and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us lest we die. But hey, you wanted to hear God. Now you change your mind. You're scared. You could see the sounds. What does this mean? Seeing the sounds. The embryos saw and heard. What does it mean to see the sounds? Close your eyes. Tap on your eyelids and you'll see the real color and you'll see the sounds that they saw. Fear not, says Moses. God has come in order to promote your reputation throughout the world, and in order that having seen his awe, you will know there is no other than him, so that you shall not sin. The people remained a long way off. Moses drew near, first through the darkness, then to the cloud, and deepest still to the fog where God was. God said to Moses, say the following to the children of Israel. You have seen that from the heavens I have spoken to you, and I have shown my fire and might down on earth. You shall not make images of any of my spiritual servants that are with me. I'm not going to explain this because you hear the words of Hashem. You should not make the cherubs from silver, thus rendering them as false gods. Rather, they should be made of gold. You should not make more than 2 cherubs. And if you do, I will consider them like false gods of gold. You should not make for yourselves a replica of the cherubs in your own synagogues. You shall make for me an altar attached to the earth, alternatively filled with earth, and you shall slaughter near it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, which come from your sheep and your cattle. Wherever I allow my name to be mentioned, only in the holy temple by the priests, I will come to you and bless you. When you make me an altar of stones, you shall not build them of cut stones, lest you wield your sword upon it and desecrate it by using an object of death to form the altar, which is an object of life. When you build a ramp to my altar, do not make it ascend with steps, so that it will not look as if your nakedness is exposed upon it. This is really, really important. The last word, the very first mitzvah that was given after the Jewish people received the Torah was something negative, not to make idols of silver and gold. This was immediately followed by the mitzvah to construct the earthen altar, while being a positive command also has a negative connotation, since earth is something which everyone tramples on. This teaches us that the first stage of spiritual growth must be negative. A person needs to discard his personal desires and whims if he is to come close to God. This acts as a spiritual vacuum which allows the holiness of the Torah to penetrate. This is based on Likutei Sichot, Volume 2, page 540. Sucking up all the negativity which allows the holiness of Torah to penetrate. It's easy to understand this, and it's incredibly difficult to do. With 150 million thoughts of what this means and how do you do it and what do you do and the way it should be and take it just exactly the way it is. Do what Hashem is asking you. Make it part of your life to the extent that you can grasp. Don't look for a way out. Look for a way in. It's not easy. It's not easy. But if Hashem says so, and that's what he wants, It's doable because he's given us the blueprint and he's given us the koiches, the strength to do it. And if he did that, then that means you can. And if he says you can, you can. And so go for it. The Rebbe is very, very clear in his conversations. Hashem created us, so whatever he created and how he created it and what he gives and how he gives makes it possible for us. Without compromises, without trying to find an easy way out of it, because there aren't any easy ways out of it. The rabbinic conversations that are acceptable or making things acceptable, the Rebbe says there are no compromises. There are no compromises. And we all do them, we all look for them, we all find ways to do it, okay. But in reality, what we should try to do, each and every one of us, in the best way that he knows how, following what Hashem wants from us, knowing that ultimately everything you do has a consequence. You should always try to do the best you possibly can, going beyond your limits in order to serve Hashem in the best way, in the Torah way. And that's what he wants. And that's what we should try to do. And he will bless us, and each and every one of us, in the best way that he sees fit. Never to question his judgment. Dear friends, I send you brachas for a good week. Brachas to hear Hashem's word, to please, please, please read Torah, learn Torah, become familiar with the tree of life, the waters of Torah. Have a wonderful week. Peace, health, and blessings. Shalom.